For this interview, we are so excited to welcome Andreas Dengel. He is full professor for computer science education at the Goethe-Universität Frankfurt. Welcome, Andreas. So good to have you.
Hi there. Hi, Ikin. Wonderful to be here, at least virtually, I guess.
Good to hear that, at least. So let me just dive right into the questions and start with your research focus. So you are concentrated on immersive learning, didactics of computer science, and media education. Can you maybe briefly explain what is meant by these concepts and how are they related with each other?
Yeah, sure. So as you see, it's a rather broad research area. And I think of my research area as being both like learning with technology, but also learning about technology. So as a computer scientist, I'm interested in how all these fancy digital things around us, how they work. And I'm interested in all this geeky stuff that happens, let's say, under the hood of all this stuff. And I really want to share this interest and this fascination about these things with my students. And so most of the time, I'm a full professor at the University of Frankfurt, so where I teach my students how to teach computer science. But I also work as a computer science teacher at a high school, so which is where I am right now, as you can see, because I have to teach in half an hour. And yeah, so that's like the first area. And the second area of research is more teaching and learning with technology. So there I'm especially interested in virtual reality and augmented reality as, let's say, new tools for education. At least I strongly believe that there is so much to discover with these new technologies. We call it immersive technologies, virtual reality, augmented reality. And I think that those can really help us in learning visual and make learning more motivating and engaging, for example.
So let me combine the two highlights of that answer. One is that you are teaching at university and in high schools. And the other one is that you are very involved in this new advances in virtual and augmented reality. So what do you think makes good teaching, not only in college level, but also in high school level? And how are the recent advancements in virtual and augmented reality changing what we expect from education systems?
So, okay, those are two very broad questions.
Yeah,
let me start with the first one. So, it was what do you think makes good teaching, right?
Yeah.
So, I think the thing is, depending on whoever you ask, you will get so many different opinions. You will get as many different opinions on what makes good teaching as there are probably people on the earth. And I think most of these opinions are totally valid, but at least for me, it comes down to especially two things. So the first thing is creating stories, and the other thing is creating flow. So creating stories and flow in the learning process is, at least for me, what makes good teaching. Because, so let me explain. We love stories. We love stories of any kind. We love books, movies, games, because all of them have like some kind of narrative in them. And I ask myself, why should be learning any different? Or let me rephrase it, why do we make learning any different? So why don't we use stories in there? So just for me, great teachers tell great stories in their classroom. So yeah, and the second thing, the flow thingy, this is what I call like this perfect and totally focused state of mind, where, so for example, the challenges that you're facing, they perfectly align with the skills that you have. And this perfectly concentrated state of mind is like the perfect state for learning. Especially then, maybe you have experienced this state of mind when you engage in your hobbies. Whatever you do, I don't know, cycling, singing, rapping, whatever. When you engage in your hobbies, you are in this state of mind where you completely forget about time, where you completely forget about your environment. And this is something that we want to have for learning processes as well.
So if you are really interested in something, it makes it easier to actually get in that flow. And you telling stories to your students make it easier for them to be interested. So it's a loop, it's a closed loop, seems like.
Yeah, I hope so. And the second question? I'm sorry, I forgot.
The second question is the effect of the advancements in virtual and augmented reality and how they will change our expectations from education systems.
Yeah, sure. So I really think that we need to do away with the myth that these technologies will create a whole new educational system, a whole new school system. I think we need to accept that this technology, or technology in general, it's not like a campfire that's creating any benefit from just standing there and being warm. We have to actually use it, and technology needs to be used by the teachers and by the students to really create any benefit. So I think for like the right learning objectives, they have to be also used in the right phases of teaching. So we really need to educate our teachers on how to use these technologies. So the thing that actually changes now is that we have like 1 or 2 or 3 more technologies or more tools, let's call them tools, in the huge toolbox of a teacher. So teachers can change the tool, and they can choose the tool that fits right to their learning objectives with their specific students. And so here I'm not just talking about mere knowledge. I'm talking about emotions, about attitudes, and about connections with other people, with other cultures, with other times. And the question is, why do we think that these virtual reality and augmented reality technologies can create this? Because of a feeling that we call presence. So in virtual reality research, we talk a lot about feeling present in a certain virtual environment, or feeling present together with other social actors, or feeling present as the avatar that we're being represented as in such a virtual reality. And the thing is, when we are in this virtual environment, we know that this experience is not real, that all of this is mediated. But still, because of this feeling of presence, our body acts and behaves as if all this experience was real. And this is something that can change attitudes, that can change emotions. And this is like the huge benefit. For example, let's say changing the color of our skin, or changing gender, or changing cultures, or changing, or for example, simulating disabilities, impairments. This can teach us empathy, and virtual reality is the biggest benefit when it comes to teaching empathy. It's not the worksheet that we work on every day in the classroom. It's this new medium. So this is what I think will really create a benefit. But okay, let me give you a more specific example. So let me ask you a question. What did you have for breakfast?
I had plain toast with coffee for breakfast.
Plain toast with coffee. Anything else?
No, just that.
Okay.
You don't approve?
The thing. No. That sounds nice. I had half a coffee because.
So mine is better, yeah.
Yeah, yours is definitely better. But we tend to remember quite well the things that, for example, we had for breakfast. That you might even remember what you had for breakfast yesterday and the day before, and so on and so on. But actually, this is just like some boring list, right? This is just a rather useless list. I mean, after all the randoms we shove in our bodies. So the question is, why can we remember this so well in comparison to, let's say, the 7 characteristics of a certain topic, or the 10 steps of the whatever process? Why is this so hard for us? And the reason for this is called episodic memory. So we remember our own stories, our own episodes of life. And we remember this way better than what we try to crunch forcefully into our brains. And this is exactly where, for example, virtual reality has this huge potential for learning. Because rather than reading a text or watching a video about, let's say, ancient Rome, we go to ancient Rome. We are in the Colosseum, and we really experience this as episodes of our lives. So also in, let's say, biology learning, rather than learning about different organs on a worksheet, we shrink ourselves and we go inside the human body and learn about it by following some kind of story and tasks. And this is exactly what virtual reality and augmented reality as well can provide as benefits for learning. So yeah, I think that it may become way easier to adapt this in the classroom.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point to connect to the other question. You mentioned adapting to new technologies, but you also have this initiative called Blue Science Initiative, and you are focusing on mental health issues at doctoral and postdoctoral qualification periods. So what do you think are the causes of mental health issues in academia? Do you think it's because of the difficulty in adapting in master's is a lot different than PhD, for example. Do you think it's because it's difficult to adapt those different qualification periods? And how do you think we can counteract these problems?
Yeah, so about the Blue Science project and this whole issue on mental health in academia. So I totally agree that these issues become more and more visible as people share their stories on social media and in presentations and whatever, just as I did with the coming out on major depression illness and about all the stuff related to therapy and medication stuff. But the problem is that it remains the problem. So mental health still remains invisible, at least by definition, because it's in our mind. We can see if somebody has a broken leg, or we can see when they broke their arm or something like this, but we cannot see mental health. And again, I can only tell from my own experience. But I experienced that this is an issue becoming or being very prevalent in academia. So a lot of people experience mental health issues. I don't want to say that a career in academia actually causes depression, but I think academia is most certainly an environment where depression can thrive, unfortunately. And I think so. For years and years, most scientists have no idea where they will be or work a year ahead because they are living from grant to grant. They are always hoping that their grant gets extended and they hopefully finish their PhD on time before the money runs out. And that's a huge problem because that model works somehow fine as long as you don't have any obligations and as long as you, as long as you hate having security in your life. But I don't know if I should call myself lucky or something like this for not having any of these obligations at the time, that I wasn't bound to any certain location or having the need of financial stability because of obligations. But I know that a lot of people struggled very soon as they were trying to start a family or something like this. And that pressure combined with the need to function properly all the time in academia, that is something that really, I think that really strengthens depression, unfortunately. So for myself, I was suffering from depression years and years before even setting a foot into university. So that means by the time I went for my PhD, I already had my share of therapy and medication, but I feel that we really need to change something in that system. This is also why I created this Blue Science initiative to really help strengthen the perspective on mental health in universities and in higher education. And I mean, we always talk about the freedom of mind in academia, but I strongly believe that we really need to take care of ourselves first before we can be free in our mind, because we need to take care of ourselves, our mind and body, to achieve our full potential, to achieve this freedom, I guess.
So my colleagues are warning me that our time is almost up. But thank you so much for this genuine interview. And I think it's important to realize that academia can be an enabling space for mental illness, and people will not be alone expressing their feelings on those matters. Thank you very much for joining us.
And this is also, And this is also the reason why we want to start integrating these meetups together with the 30 under 30s, for example. We want to start certain meetups, for example, now in December and also in the years to come, and hopefully create a community where we all take care of each other.
Yeah, hopefully.
So yeah, this is one of the things that we're planning on.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us.